Here's Ayato. There he is, Ayato. Boom. Shebang. Nice. So if you want him, if you're going to go for Ayato, here are the Ascension materials. Spoilers, I don't know anymore. I don't care really anymore. These are, I think, what boss drops this stuff? Due of this, it's a Hydro Hypostasis. Get that if you want it. Doesn't matter. Here's the reason why we're looking at him. Here are the reasons why he's going to be strong. Crit damage goes up to 88% baseline. He goes up to 88.4% crit damage just at level 90, which there's no reason to get to, so just go to level 80 plus. Just go to 80 plus, which is the, 80 out of 90 Ascension, whatever you want to call it. That's where you need him at. You don't need him 90 because he's not a Animo or anything other character. He's Hydro, you don't need anything other than that. Get him to 80 plus. 88.4% crit damage with a 33% crit rate weapon, which is his innate weapon, which is the Hakan Geppaku Futsu. I can't remember his name. Hakan Geppaku Futsu, I think it's called. That puts you at a solid, roughly 40% crit rate, 88% crit damage. This is no artifacts. This is all in the brain. We're all talking about in the brain right now. Everyone focus. Focus on in the brain. 40% crit rate, 88% crit damage. Already, without artifacts, he's a pretty good character. Without artifacts, pretty good, right? Really good so far. Obviously, attack, we're not going to focus on that right now. And then you put on a crit damage helmet. That's an extra 62 or 60 odd percent crit damage. Boosts you up to 140 crit damage. Crit rate is still at 40. Let's say that helmet has 10% crit rate. If you're lucky. If you're lucky. Yes, tissue in the brain, let's go. So that boosts you up to 50% crit rate and 140% crit damage with one artifact and a weapon, the Hakan Geppaku, whatever the Futsu, right? Whatever, you guys know what I mean. That is a very good build so far. And if we look at other characters that are like this, Arataki Ito is another crit damage main stat scaler, if I remember correctly. I could be absolutely wrong on that. I'm not going to fact check myself because I don't really care. You guys can fact check me in the comments. But I'm pretty sure Arataki Ito is a crit damage scaler or level up, stat level up or whatever you want to call it. As well as Hu Tao is the other one, and Ayaka. These three characters that I've just named, all very much known for doing a lot of just damage, right? So, instant synergy, instant connection as to why Ayato will be an absolute monster. Now, onto more info. We're going to look at his, we're not going to look at his normal attacks because normal attacks are the same for everyone, right? Everyone has a normal attack that deals damage. The end, right? No one cares about normal attacks, even though I think he's a normal attack Andy, but I think it's a bit more important on his skill. Ito is a crit rate scale, I think, because his weapon is crit damage. Ah, yes, you're right. I forgot. Yeah, Arataki's crit rate. Honestly, if you're a crit rate or crit damage, you're probably good either way. It doesn't matter. So let's have a look at his elemental skill. Kamisato shifts into a position and enters the Takime Guri Kunka state. Obviously, a name I'll never remember. After this shift, he will leave a watery illusion at his original location. After it is formed, the watery illusion will explode if the opponents are nearby or after its duration ends, dealing AoE Hydro damage and AoE Hydro damage ability. Amazing. In this state, Ayato uses his Shun Suiken to engage in blindly fast attacks, causing damage from his attacks to be converted into AoE Hydro. This cannot be overridden, so Bennett fields are fine. So you can combo him with a C6 Bennett and his skill, and it'll work absolutely fine. And write that down. He works with a C6 Bennett. That is a positive. That is a positive. If you've accidentally gotten your Bennett to C6 and you regretted it, it's fine if you're going for Ayato. Write that down, guys. Are his normal attacks scaling high compared to the other 5-star units? That is a good thing to check. Let's open up this. Let's go to who's another sword unit? Let's go look at Ayaka, right? Ayaka. Why is she not at A? Because people go by their last names. That is a K. I can't remember where K is in the alphabet. Let's go to Kamisato Ayaka. We'll look at the normal attacks. Usually the difference between the characters is very low. At level 15, 122%. At level 15, 120%. A 1 to 2% difference between all the attacks, I'm assuming. 130 on Ayaka's here, 126 on Ayato's, 156 on Ayato, 167 on Ayaka. So Ayaka is doing a lot more basic attack damage, so normal attack damage. The difference is about I think at most 5 to 6%. So there it is, not too much of a difference. But back onto the elemental skill. Where were we? His attack cannot be overridden. Yeah, able to use C6 Benny Boys? Absolutely. After Shunsuiken attacks hidden opponent, it will grant Ayato the Namisen effect, increasing the damage dealt by Shunsuiken based on Ayato's current max HP. The initial maximum number of Namisen stacks is 4, and 1 stack can be gained through Shunsuiken every 0.1 seconds. Essentially, when you pop his elemental skill, you go into this state where you do those flashy step, like Bleach-styled flash step attacks, and each hit that you do with that grants you 1 Namisen attack. So it's essentially your attacks increase in damage as you do the attacks until you reach 4 hits later, and you're doing now your maximum achievable damage. This effect would be dispelled when Takimeguri Kanka ends, which is essentially his skill. Kamisato Ayato's resistance to interruption is increased, so essentially because you're standing still, you're essentially vulnerable whilst you're doing these attacks. I think people would argue you're not, but you're standing still essentially. So obviously you get interruption increase, which is quite nice. Unable to use charged or plunging attacks makes sense. You enter this specific state where you have to stand still and use your attacks. Takimeguri Kanka will be cleared when Ayato either leaves the field. Remember that if you leave the field, all of that is it's like kind of like Xiao's burst. It's cleared when you leave. Using Kamisato art, Kyoka again will, while in Takimeguri Kanka state, will reset and replace the pre-existing state. Essentially, if you use his skill and you still have, so if you use his skill, you get all the buffs, and then use his skill again in some fashion, it'll be overlaid, so it will reset essentially. You'll have to restart your Namisen stacks and start from unbuffed damage to go to buff damage. Now, the bigger important thing to take away from this is the scaling of his HP per stack of the Namisen effect. My voice is getting a bit hazy here. So obviously you can look at the damage of the Shunsuiken, whatever's. The bigger important thing is the Namisen effect. So at level 1, the Namisen damage bonus, which is the damage bonus you get from HP, essentially from Ayato. Obviously, you can get up to 4 stacks of the Namisen effect. It starts off at level 1 at 0.56% of max HP per stack, which in total equals up to 2% at 4 stacks, right? But if we jump over to level 15, we get 1.5% of max HP per stack, which goes up to 6% at 4 stacks, which is 6% damage of your max HP being increased per normal hit. Is actually quite a substantial amount. 6% is actually quite a lot, and it's a big reason why I also think his elemental skill will be a very high damaging ability, specifically if you combo it with a lot of damage boosters. You put down Bennett's field, you put down Kujo Sara's field, and then you have something like a Bennett shield, a Zhongli shield on. You have some sort of damage increasing effect on top of that as well. Some food, you'll be absolutely shredding ass cheeks, I think, sorry, pardon me, I'm burping a bit, with Ayato's elemental skill. Just because 6% damage increase of your HP is quite a bit. Like, I don't want to overplay it, but it is quite a substantial amount of your HP. 6% of 50k, for example, is a lot of. Is like, what was that? 6,000? 6,000 damage extra, bro. Oh, is it? Yeah, I think it is. No, it's not. It's not. It's like 3,000. 3,000 still substantial amount of damage. So bear that in mind. That I think his elemental skill is going to be the DPS main way. So if you want to build him as main DPS, single target Andy, elemental skill is the way to go. But going on to his elemental burst is going to be the more supportive route. Let's talk about that. Unveils a Garden of Purity that extinguishes all cacophony within. While in this place exists, blue mortar blades will constantly rain down. It's essentially Hydra version of Ganyu's elemental burst. Sorry. So, like I said, just mentioned Ganyu, right? Ganyu is going to be an absolutely amazing character to combo with Ayato here. Going for a perma-freeze comp. That's an immediate thing that came to my brother's mind, and that's why I'm talking about it now. Let me turn this music down a bit. It's kind of loud in my brain. Hold up. So yeah, my brother talked about it. Mentioned it to me that Ganyu's burst and Ayato's burst were essentially a match made in heaven. They're going to work for a perma-freeze comp. In some of Spiral Abyss, probably most of Spiral Abyss, and also the open world. Not really against bosses, but still probably some nice freezing reactions can be triggered there. and it's an 80 cost burst. Might be an overkill on the 80 cost. I think 80 cost is maybe a bit too much. I'm not sure what Garnyu's is. I probably could check here. I'm not really gonna care. But yeah, it's an 80 cost. I would have put this as like a 70 or a 60. Maybe not a 80, but I'm not sure what Garnyu's is, so I'm not really gonna comment on that either way. But yeah, just bear in mind that that's what his burst is. I don't think his burst is gonna be a main DPS thing. Now, because obviously they did talk about the character in the stream, but I think just hearing it vocally without seeing text on the screen is kind of like a dumb thing. I think they should include text on the stream. Let's have a look at the passive talents now. I'm not going to talk about the cooking one. The cooking one's kind of dumb. Don't really care about it. But looking at his first passive important talent, when Kamisato Art Kyoka has the following properties. After it is used, Kamisato Ayato will gain 2 Namisen stacks. Goddamn English. Come on. Essentially, if you have this passive, you start off your elemental skill by having 2 Namisen stacks, which is, well, you start off 2 levels higher, meaning that you'll get more damage out of your skill quicker. Essentially, it's really just quickening up your damage process, which is extremely, extremely good. You just get more damage quicker. And then second, when the water illusion explodes, Ayato will gain an Namisen effect equal to the maximum number of stacks possible. Yes. I don't know what that means, but I agree. I guess he just, when it explodes, he just gains a Namisen stack, or just gains maximum stacks, I guess. Who knows? But the more important passive that I believe is the next one. If Kamisato Ayato is not on the field and his energy is less than 40, he will regenerate 2 energy for himself every second, essentially making, effectively, if you're using him for a support character, if you're trying to use him as a combo character with Ganyu, it effectively makes it that his burst is only a 40 cost in theory. Now, in practicality, that's still to be tested, but I think in theory, it's meant to make his burst only 40 cost, because if he's off field, he's going to regenerate to 40 in pretty much, what is that, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. So I think in theory, a 40 cost ult because of the second passive, but it's yet to be seen in practice, right? But, you know, it's still a really good passive. Now, slightly more important things, constellations. Now, obviously, I'll make a video on Ayato talking about all this stuff again, just as a standalone video, but this is just obviously speculation and all yet to be tested. Looking at his constellations, Shun Suiken damage is increased by 40% against enemies or opponents with 40% HP or less. Your elemental skill does more damage against opponents with less HP by 40%. That's a lot of percent for your elemental skill. It's really, really good. It's an execute build like there's no tomorrow. This is going to be crazy. C1 is going to be almost like a... C1 honestly feels like a C4, like in terms of the value that you're getting. So C1 Ayato is looking to be really fucking good, because I think most characters usually have this whole execute kind of concept applied on a different constellation, usually C4 or C6, and Ayato's getting it at C1, so that's really fucking good. That's a really good constellation. But going on to C3, or C2, sorry, C3, C2, Namisen stack count is increased to 5. That is really good. That is really good. So essentially, the Namisen stack thing increases to 5 in terms of total stacks. And that basically means at level 15, instead of having 6% damage increase by HP, or sorry, of your max HP, it's increased to 7.5%, which is even better, essentially boosting your damage by an extra pretty much 1,000, let's say, if you're at high HP. And then an additional fact, when Kamisato Ayato has at least 3 Namisen stacks, his HP is increased by 50%, which is fucking crazy. So C2 has a fuck ton of value. It's an insane amount of value on a C2 here, which is fucking crazy. He gets, essentially, this HP bonus or HP increase is a damage increase by a lot just to his elemental skill, obviously, which is fucking ludicrous. I just can't really comprehend. Obviously, we can't put it into practice of how good this is, but this is fucking crazy. Obviously, C3 needs to be noted that it is his elemental skill level up, not his elemental burst. His elemental skill is his C3, C4 is after using his Kamisato art Suiyu, which is his elemental burst. All nearby party members have their have 15% increase in normal attack speed. So essentially, you pop his burst, then you go into his elemental skill, and you're doing it super quick. Elemental burst level up is his C5, and then C6. Obviously, the final one should be high value. After using Kamisato art Kyoka elemental skill, Ayato's next Shun Suiken attack will create 2 extra Shun Suiken strikes when they hit opponents, each one dealing 300% of Ayato's attack as damage. Both these Shun Suiken attacks will not be affected by Namisen. So essentially, whenever you use his elemental skill, the next attack will create 2 extra additional hits that deal 300% of your attack, in total dealing 600% of your attack in total for this for this constellation, sorry, which is, you know, let's say you have 2k attack, each of them is dealing 6k to a total of 12k. It's really fucking good. Obviously, I don't think that takes into consideration crit damage or anything like that. So it's a pretty good elemental skill. I'm not sure if it's gonna, sorry, not elemental skill, constellation. I'm not sure if it's gonna be like a must-have. I'd say stop at C2 or 3. That is my speculative stopping point, is C3. C4 is really good for the attack speed, but it's only 15%, and you have to stack it with other characters who have attack speed, so I wouldn't recommend it for that. C3 is probably the highest value that you'll get in terms of like how far to go versus, because like from C1 to 3, you're probably getting about like 2 to 4 times your value in terms of like 3 to 6. Oh, sorry, 4 to 6. 1 to 3 is like 4 times value of 4 to 6, which is pretty crazy. And that's essentially everything with Kamisato Ayato. I think I genuinely think he's a fucking god tier character. I don't see him not being good. If he somehow ends up not being good, I will eat my own pants on stream. Like, I will eat my own